Hey, it's me, Riker. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new event, Isle of Gold. So, as you can see, this is a hexagon pattern where we'll have to build both defense and offense buildings in order to get resources. This is the new mechanic called morale. So the higher morale you have, the more resources you'll be able to plunder from your opponents. In some cases, you can go even to 2 to 3 times the amount that you can plunder. Here's a couple of the rewards for the levels that you gain by building structures: purple stones, yellow engraving mats, po coins, red chests, red engraving materials, and 10 stargazing tickets. Here's a couple of the bundles that you can buy from the event. And here's some of the resources that you can see your total that you have produced and the amount that you have pillaged. So you'll start off with 30 dice rolls. Now you will have to build a couple of, as I said, resource and defensive buildings. So we start off with the experience mine, and you should always try and build the resource buildings, the ones that you need. As you are limited to only 4, I would highly recommend that you get the dust, diamonds, po coins, and labyrinth tokens, as this is one of the highest values. And I would not recommend buying the EXP and the guild coins, as there are many other ways and places that you can get this resources. Here's a couple of the defensive buildings. So essentially what they do, most of them, is they affect your morale when pillaging enemies. So a couple of them limit the amount of morale, essentially cap your opponent's morale to a certain level. Others reduce it. And some of the structures, such as the flowers will boost the amount you pillage. They'll increase your morale and they'll increase your attack power. Also, another major important thing is increasing dice rolls, as this can allow you to essentially do multiple loops through your opponent's Isle of Gold, and you can essentially complete all of their resource buildings. Now there's a new one, Fountain of Blessing. For each morale, this will increase the amount you pillage by 1%. So the higher the level, the better this will get. Alright, so from the get-go, I'm going to start off with a essence, as that is one of the most important buildings for both starter accounts and late game accounts. So put your 4 base teams in these specific buildings, as you need to defend when someone is trying to pillage your buildings. Additionally, what you can do, you can also use allies to help reinforce if you're missing a couple of teams. And here's one of the buildings that you can land on, and in this case you can get 3 extra dice rolls. So this will go above your limit. So let's say I was at currently 29, this will currently go to above that, so it will not cap out at 30. So next one that I built was Labyrinth. Now this one is po coins. And then the last one would be diamonds that I will build. So I would always recommend that you level your resource buildings first, as this will give you a lot more extra resources throughout the day and throughout the event. And once these specific buildings have leveled to level 5, essentially the resource buildings, then you essentially start leveling up your defense buildings to level 5. And essentially you just keep on going 5 levels, and you keep on going, swapping it out between the 2 buildings, both defense and offense buildings. Don't worry about the placement at the beginning. Just make sure that you fill up as many spaces as possible so you can get every single possible buff you can. Also, I would highly recommend that you build one of each of the flowers. So 1 fountain, and then 1 of the 3 colored flowers. So 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 yellow. And then I would recommend building at least 1 or 2 of the towers, depending on which one you like most, as most of them just give minor buffs. However, the level 5 and 10 give some substantially more buffs to your allies and boost up the level of surrounding towers. Also, I would focus on these specific stones, essentially Tablet of Death in Ursha Stone and Enmity Stone, as these will give you a significant boost to your defense and will allow your defenders to easily fend off any opponents. So as you can see here, just have a read through and see which one you like most and build those specific ones. So I'm generally going to go for a mixture of all three, as all of them have very similar buffs and benefits to you and negative buffs for your opponents. As you can see here, this specific tower raises adjoining towers by 3 levels. So this, for example, you can put this next to a resource building. There's plus 3 levels, and essentially you'll be producing more resources for your allies and for your teams. All right, there we go. So at the beginning, just fill up every single space. And once you've filled up every single space on the map, then you can start leveling up the buildings as you want. But I would start off resource, then defense, then offense. Once you get it to level 5, all of them, and then you go on to the next one to level 10. You do the same pattern to level 15, same pattern, and level 20, and so forth. Also, another thing that you can do is essentially stop at level 10 for all the defensive buildings and just keep leveling your resource buildings all the way to as high as you can, to even level 30 or even above. As from this event, it seems like most of your resources that you'll gain will be from pillaging due to the morale stacking buff. As you can see, I started at the beginning at 75%. Now each time I upgrade a building, as you can see there, it went from 80 to 96% as I upgraded that building. So as you keep on upgrading buildings, this will increase your morale and the amount of loot that you can pillage. So the general format that I would put my buildings would be a resource building in between 3 tiles. So the middle tile would be a resource building, and then the 2 tiles on the side would be either a tower that would increase the levels and health of my defenders by 3 levels, or you put 2 defensive towers that negatively debuff enemies. As once you've leveled them up to level 5 or 10, then they start, essentially their buffs start overlapping tiles, and they can have their buff to spread out into a larger area of the map. So don't worry at the beginning of how your tower placement is. You can easily change this as soon as you have finished rolling your dice rolls and upgraded all your relative plots of land. So there we go. I've put my final piece and I'm slowly upgrading my resource buildings. There we go. I got a pillage attempt. So I currently had 2. You'll start off with 2 pillage attempts. However, I stood on that specific area and it gave me an additional pillage attempt, being the shipyard. Now, what I also recommend doing is putting 2 negative debuff structures on that specific area, as every single time a pillager will try and attack you, they will always start in that specific area. So if you can buff up the negative towers even further, such as going even beyond level 10, using the tower that boosts nearby towers by 3 levels, this can be a great benefit to you. Also, you can also play around with reducing the amount of dice rolls, reducing morale, and so forth. So as you can see here, you can click on the modify feature, and you can click on 2 opposing structures, and you can edit them as you please. So as you can see here, I'm busy editing my structures and trying to put them in the most optimal way and seeing which one would benefit me the most. So as you can see there, I'm putting a +3 tower on my buffs for my allies. So whenever I'm pillaging, this tower will give me a +3 buff. So make sure that you put in your best allies, your strongest teams, and I would highly recommend that you put in your strongest PvP or player versus player teams, as this will greatly increase the amount of defense that you have and reducing the chances that you will be pillaged. Also, another thing that you can do, you can ask your friends. As you can see there, I'm making a support team where I'll be helping out my allies, my guildmates, or your friends to reinforce their defensive resource buildings. So as you can see here, you click on assist, then you have to find an open area. So as you can see here, this entire map is filled up with defensive heroes. So you just have to scroll through the list and see who is missing a defensive team. So as you can see here, you can click on any of the plus buildings, you click on the team, and there we go. I have just garrisoned a hero on my friend's plot of land. Now I'd recommend that you garrison your strongest team to all of your friends. Instead of having 3 medium-based teams, you can essentially put your strongest heroes in one team, and this will greatly benefit your allies. So as you can see here, this is how pillaging looks like. So essentially you have to roll the dice, and if the opponent had defenders there, I would have to attack them. So alright, as you can see, there we go. And these are the resources that you gained from pillaging. So let's do that again. Alright, so these are 3 offensive flowers, and they will give you benefits depending on how far they have been leveled. Okay, another pillage attempt. So another thing that you can do, you can look for people who don't have defenders placed on their buildings, or you can look for non-meta PvP teams, and then you'll have an easy victory as none of the heroes are essentially from the previous Isle of Gold where they are banned or not allowed to be used. So you can use any hero that you want. As you can see there, another successful pillage attempt. So let's pillage for this time round. As you can see, that's an extremely strong team. There we go, another team. And you can refresh a total of 5 times per day, and you can select the opponent that you want to face. There we go. You can hit a pillage. So here's my opponent. Now you can set up your allies the way you want to. So always trying to position your allies and find counters. So essentially, if this is a full Graveborn team, then you can use a full Wilder team or Burst team, and this will allow you to essentially get the upper hand over your opponent. As you can see, there was the bonus that I got from my morale. I have 112%. So essentially, if I gain 100 poke coins, because of my morale, I'll get an additional 112 poke coins. So that will be a total of 212 poke coins because of my high morale level.